Hi, everybody. Welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. I got an email that blew my mind. This email blew my mind. This is from Christian Blake. Subject line, you missed this. Hi, Jared. Here's a quote from Wilford Woodruff in the Journal of Discourses that I think could be related to your swarm of 7 comets you did a video on today. All right, let's stop right there. In case you missed my video, we were looking at theskylive.com. Because this YouTuber, Stephen Burns, a geophysicist, he was talking about the fact that there are 7 comets that are currently approaching the sun. There's like a swarm of comets. And of course, they all approach the sun because they have an orbit around the sun. But you have 7 at a time that are coming in toward the sun as part of their orbit. And in this video, I went back to the year 2000 and looked at what is normal from the year 2000 until the end of 2025. And specifically, what I wanted to know was how often do comets come within Earth's orbit? And at any given time, when you have a comet come within Earth's orbit, you may get up to like 2 or 3 at a time within like a couple months of each other or at the same time. But it turns out that this last part of 2025, especially around like October, November, December, you just have this sudden flurry of comets that come within Earth's orbit. And it's unusual. I played the whole thing. You were able to watch it with me. I selected all the comets that they have on this website. And at least for that 25 year time frame, it's not normal. It's unusual. And so that piqued my interest. We have this really interesting, what they think is a comet, but they're not sure. They think it could be a planetary body. What they are sure about is that it's an interstellar object called 3I Atlas. If it is a comet, it's the fastest moving comet that has ever been observed. There's all these really unusual characteristics about it. For example, they think that it's producing its own light. The tail is facing the wrong way. And there's just like all these other things. I have a whole list of things that are unusual about this object. So something weird is happening right now. And it involves 6 comets for sure, and potentially a 7th one if 3I Atlas is indeed a comet. Okay, so let's go back to Christian's email. Quote, I saw 7 golden lamps set in the heavens, representing the various dispensations of God to man, a sign that would appear before the coming of Christ. Wilford Woodruff, Journal of Discourses, 22, page 333. The citation index references Zechariah 4:2 and Revelation 4:5 related to these 7 lamps that might be interesting to look into. He's referring to this website that I use a lot, the Scripture Citation Index. You can search the scriptures. You can also search the Journal of Discourses and General Conference talks going back to 1942. Also, scriptural teachings of the prophet Joseph Smith. And what you have is you'll have these discourses and these scripture citations. Okay, and here's the one that he's talking about. I saw 7 golden lamps, and then here's the 2 citations. Okay, so yeah, we are going to look into that. Did Wilford Woodruff see more detail related to the sign of the coming of the Son of Man? Or is this potentially another sign that has been given to us prior to Christ coming? Just some thoughts. This was part of a vision he had with other details in it you might want to check out, Christian. Well, thank you, Christian. And I've actually already made a video about this vision. I have it on my spreadsheet called Visions and Quotes, Visions and Visitations. And I have it under 1835. And yeah, we've covered this before. And I did think that that was an interesting detail, but I didn't really know what to make of it. At the time, I actually thought about the book of Revelation because it does talk about something similar. And I was like, well, I mean, is this symbolic? But maybe, like, you don't really see this anywhere else. I'm about to show you. You don't really see this anywhere else, only from President Wilford Woodruff. At the time that he told this, he was president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. And I just want to read this really quick. Now I will refer to a thing that took place with me in Tennessee. I was in Tennessee in the year 1835, and while at the house of Abraham O. Smoot, I received a letter from brothers Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery, requesting me to stay there and stating that I would lose no blessing by doing so. Of course, I was satisfied. I went into a little room and sat down upon a small sofa. I was all by myself, and the room was dark. And while I rejoiced in this letter and the promise made to me, I became wrapped in a vision. I was like Paul. I did not know whether I was in the body or out of the body. A personage appeared to me and showed me the great scenes that should take place in the last days. One scene after another passed before me. I saw the sun darkened. I saw the moon become as blood. I saw the stars fall from heaven. And now here it is. I saw 7 golden lamps set in the heavens, representing the various dispensations of God to man, a sign that would appear before the coming of Christ. I saw the resurrection of the dead. In the first resurrection, those that came forth from their graves seemed to be all dressed alike, but in the second resurrection, they were all diverse in their dress, as this congregation is before me today. And if I had been an artist, I could have painted the whole scene as it was impressed on my mind, more indelibly fixed than anything I had ever seen with the natural eye. Okay, so, what was it that he saw? These 7 golden lamps. Well, from the context, it doesn't seem like it's symbolic, because before he says that, he talks about the sun and the moon and the stars, right? It seems like he's actually seeing some kind of natural phenomenon that's taking place in the heavens. So that is very interesting. Now, one thing that I did do that I hadn't done before is I took this vision and I had this row for a sign of the Son of Man, but I decided to kind of categorize it under signs in the heavens. So I have a row for signs in the heavens, sign of the Son of Man, and now this new one, signs in the heavens, 7 golden lamps. Okay, so, and let me just point out really quick, Bruce R. McConkie. Now, when Joseph Smith described the sign of the Son of Man, it seems as though he's talking about Christ himself coming with the hosts of heaven. In fact, I should probably read that really quick. Let's see, which one is it? Then will appear one grand sign of the Son of Man in heaven. But what will the world do? They will say it is a planet, a comet, etc. Which again, I just want to point out with 3i Atlas, some are saying that it's a comet, some are saying that it's a planetary body. So that's just kind of interesting. But the Son of Man will come as the sign of the coming of the Son of Man. So it's this phrase right here that makes it seem like it's simply Christ coming in his glory, and most likely with the hosts of heaven, which would include the city of Enoch and all the resurrected saints. I think that's the case. I'm not sure. But Elder Bruce R. McConkie in The Millennial Messiah, he says, the sign of the coming of the Son of Man, what is it? We do not know. And then he goes on, and this is all that he says about it. You can pause and read this if you want to. So I don't really know what to think. I don't know if it is Christ in the hosts of heaven. I don't know if it's some kind of something happening in space, or if it's the 7 golden lamps that President Wilford Woodruff saw. I don't know. But now let's take a look at the scripture citation index that Christian had referenced, and we'll look at these 2 scriptures. Before we do, one thing that we need to take into account is these citations. Where do they come from? You might think, well, these are in the footnotes. No, When you go to the Journal of Discourses, so this is BYU Library Digital Collections, here's the Journal of Discourses, and here's the part that we're interested in. I saw 7 golden lamps set in the heavens. And there are no footnotes, and there are no scriptural references within the text itself. You don't see them anywhere. They're not at the bottom of the page. When you go to the end of the talk, or you go any other part as you flip through the pages, there are no footnotes. And so that begs the question, where do these citations come from? If you go to the homepage of the Scripture Citation Index, it has this section called History. The Scripture Citation Index was first created in paper form by Richard Galbraith, I hope that's how it's pronounced, while serving as a faculty member at BYU, now emeritus. The index was made into a website and corresponding mobile apps by Stephen Liddell, it's probably Little, also a BYU faculty member. We've had help from many great BYU students through the years working on various aspects of this project. So I think they just went through there and read through all these discourses and then just did their best to figure out what scriptures were being referenced. Maybe it was like a similar process with the footnotes in the standard works. I know that there was some kind of project, and I know it involved Elder Bruce R. McConkie, I think President Thomas S. Monson, maybe President James E. Faust. I can't remember who all was involved, but somehow they were able to do all the footnotes for the scriptures, which I wouldn't even know where to start. I would not be able to do that. I have no idea how they did that. At this part, it says, we have indexed the scriptures cited by speakers in General Conference between 1942 and the present, and those cited by speakers recorded in the Journal of Discourses between 1839 and 1886. So my best guess is that this is their best guess at which scriptures are being cited. And that's important to understand because Wilford Woodruff may not have been referring specifically to Zechariah 4:2 or Revelation 4:5. The person doing the indexing may have just been like, oh yeah, 7 golden lamps. We see that in Zechariah. We see it in Revelation. And so I think it's important to understand that. Let's see. I also searched 7 lamps, and we have this result from 1948, but it's not talking about this at all or anything even close. Okay, so Revelation chapter 4, verses 4 through 5. And round about the throne were 24 seats, and upon the seats I saw 24 elders sitting, clothed in white raiment, and they had on their heads crowns of gold. And out of the throne proceeded lightnings and thunderings and voices, and there were 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of God. Okay, now, if you click on this footnote A for verse 5, we have a Joseph Smith, and I am saying Joseph Smith. Some of you are like, why are you saying Joe Smith? It's just the way I talk, guys. Please don't criticize the way I talk. Joseph Smith translation, and it replaces the word spirits with servants. Okay, so 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne, which are the 7 servants of God. Okay, and it makes note of that in the Institute student manual. One thing I want to point out really quick is you have to be careful with the book of Revelation, because sometimes people think that everything is symbolic, and that's not the case. And other times people read it very, very literally, and that's not always the case. It's a mix of the symbolic and the literal. So for example, in the case of the 24 elders, some people think that's something that's going to happen in the future. It's some kind of prophecy, or it's something symbolic. Well, no, this is literal. I'm going to read this. In Revelation 4, John saw a vision of God the Father sitting on his heavenly throne with 24 elders surrounding the throne. Modern scripture explains that these 24 elders were elders who had been faithful in the work of the ministry and were dead, who belonged to the seven churches and were then in the paradise of God. This vision confirms the promises made to those who overcome evil, as recorded in Revelation 2 through 3. So these were in actual 24 elders who had lived, they had died, and it seems that they have obtained exaltation, or at least it says the paradise of God, so maybe they're in the spirit world, but they, for all intents and purposes, they are going to receive their exaltation. So it's not symbolic, it's not a prophecy of the future. And then, like we just said, the Joe Smith translation changes it to 7 servants. So it doesn't seem like Revelation 4:5 has anything to do with what Wilford Woodruff saw. Because again, Wilford Woodruff was describing signs in the heavens, like actual literal signs. And among those signs was 7 golden lamps. In Revelation, it just says 7 lamps. It doesn't say 7 golden lamps. So that's another thing that kind of makes it different. Okay, and then in Zechariah chapter 4, let's just read the chapter heading. Zerubbabel will lay the foundation of and finish the house of the Lord, the temple of Zerubbabel. So remember, this is essentially the second temple. During this period, it's called the Zerubbabel temple, but later on, once Herod comes on the scene and makes renovations and stuff, it becomes Herod's temple, or sometimes called Herod's temple. But it's just the second temple. Okay, and the angel that talked with me came again and waked me as a man that is wakened out of his sleep, and said unto me, What seest thou? And I said, I have looked, and behold, a candlestick, all of gold, with a bowl upon the top of it, and his 7 lamps thereon, and 7 pipes to the 7 lamps, which are upon the top thereof. And 2 olive trees by it, one upon the right side of the bowl, and the other upon the left side thereof. Let's go to the Old Testament student manual. What does the candlestick, what does the candlestick represent? The candlestick represents Judah, who had returned from exile in Babylon. Okay. And then who are the 2 olive trees? The 2 olive trees represent Joshua and Zerubbabel. Let me pause right here. I already feel like some of you might be like, no, that's not right. Those aren't the 2 witnesses. This does not have to do with the 2 witnesses. The 2 witnesses spoken about in the book of Revelation. This is something else, or at least that's my understanding of what we're reading here. So these 2 olive trees represent Joshua and Zerubbabel. Joshua and Zerubbabel can be seen as messianic types who are spirit-filled men who as spirit-filled men convey blessings from God to church and state, and are a type of the Messiah as priest and king. The same imagery was used by John in Revelation 11:4. Okay. So as we contemplate what Wilford Woodruff said, it doesn't seem to be related to either of those 2 scriptures. That's just my opinion. It seems like something literal is going on. Let's just read it one more time. I'm just going to read not the whole thing, just this one part. Okay, let me back up a little bit. I became wrapped in vision. I was like Paul. I did not know whether I was in the body or out of the body. A personage appeared to me and showed me the great scenes that should take place in the last days. One scene after another passed before me. I saw the sun darkened. I saw the moon become as blood. I saw the stars fall from heaven. I saw 7 golden lamps set in the heavens, representing the various dispensations of God to man. a sign that would appear before the coming of Christ. So he kind of takes his time elaborating on that sign, because I guess he figures we're already familiar with the sun being dark and the moon turning to blood, but this seems to be something new. I don't know of anywhere else that talks about 7 golden lamps in the heavens as a sign before the second coming. This may be the only place that we get it. And so he gives the interpretation, or at least what it represents. It seems like it is an actual thing, but it also represents something. It has a meaning. And the meaning is that it represents the 7 dispensations before the second coming. So what does that mean? So we have Adam, we have Enoch, we have Noah, we have Abraham, we have Moses, and then we have Christ, and then we have Joseph Smith. Those are the 7 main dispensations. And I guess that makes sense because that represents the work that has been done before the millennium. That's the 6,000 year period of this phase of mortality when the world is fallen and in a telestial state. Now, in the millennium, the earth is still fallen. It's still, we're all still going to be in probation. We're all still going to be mortal, but we will have leveled up to a terrestrial state, a paradisiacal state, but it is still mortality for that last 7 years. But 7 dispensations within the first 6,000 years. And so I guess that would be a pretty fitting sign. It's like, okay, we're wrapping up. This is it. This is the end of the 7 dispensations. Now, if these comets are not that sign, I'd like to see what that sign looks like. Maybe it's going to be really dramatic. With this, based on these trajectories and where Earth is, it's not like we're going to see these comets with the naked eye. I have heard some things like, I think this one that was just discovered, C2025 R2 Swan, I think that this one has become bright and we should be able to see it with the naked eye. I'm gonna have to double check on that. And then I thought I saw something before I started this video saying that 3i Atlas has gotten even brighter since the last time that we talked about it. I'll have to double check that. But maybe this is what Wilford Woodruff saw. Maybe this is it. And if it is, that's pretty exciting. Let's go ahead and play the animation here. So I have this set for September 20th, which is today. I'll push play. And this is what it's going to look like. And then if you watch this video, you can see what it typically looks like, at least from the year 2000 to 2025. This is actually pretty unusual, what we just saw right here. So many comets coming within Earth's orbit. So yeah, it kind of blows my mind. If this is not the sign, well, this is just another one that we should probably be looking for. I'd love if anybody could tell me if anybody else, like if anyone other than President Wilford Woodruff has talked about this. I'm pretty sure it's not in scripture, at least not the way that he talks about it. So I'd be interested if anybody else, any other prophet, apostle, general authority has talked about this, but I think he's the only one. All right, well, that's going to be it for this one. I'll talk to you guys later.